don't focus on doing when trying to be your authentic self. Focus on being. Let me explain this. Listen, a lot of times there's a lot of talk now about self and all of these particular things that are going on. And I really believe that a lot of times when we're speaking about self, we're talking about a false self. And I see a lot of people supporting the false sense of who they really are, because they're setting focus on their personalities, their desires, their, debauchery, some of them, and just all types of things that are not necessarily to say separate from you, but may not necessarily fully represent the most authentic you, the spirit you, the spirit of who you are. And regardless of what you believe religiously, we are spirit, right? We are something more than just this physical flesh. I like to sometimes say we're spirit soul. All right. And in that, what we have to do when it is regard to our relationships, regard to our relationship with ourselves, in regards to our relationships with the higher being, with the creator, with whatever, we have to come from the spirit space, right? There's a scripture in Christianity that says they that worship him must worship him in spirit, right? And in truth. And those two are tied together. And that doesn't mean, that's not a religious statement, but a lot of times it's taken religiously. That's actually a statement that speaks to the depths and the heart and soul of who we really are. At the very core of our being, we are spirit. So in being your authentic self, because everybody's trying to figure out who they really are, or operating in the sense of who we really are. And a lot of our struggles in the world and our troubles in the world is coming from a lack of knowledge, of understanding who we really are as divinely relational beings. Right? So even in our relationships, we're struggling because the authentic us hasn't shown up. We've been busy, and not just in relationships, but in life. We're busy doing, and our lives are centered around accomplishing goals and centered around being productive, being achieving achievements and different things like that. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes those things can cause us to miss really truly being who we really are. All right. And how does this happen? Really, see, listen, one way to really know whether you're being or whether you're just doing is to really center yourself and really find out if there's really an agenda going on. See, when you're really being, there's nowhere to be and nowhere to go. Now, that doesn't mean that you're inactive. It doesn't mean that you're not being productive. It doesn't mean that but it means you're in the moment of now. You're right now in this space, not just doing things, but present with it. Relationally speaking, it's not just being with people. It's not just being around people. It's being present with them and actually seeing them and experiencing them. And now some of that's crazy because everybody's so busy protecting their energy, you can't feel and see what's really going on, right? But that's a whole nother story for another time. But in this sense of being authentic, to really ground ourselves and to really listen to the spirit of who we are, speak, not just the culture, not just the to-do list, our agendas, our jobs, our occupations and all of those things or whatever, but to really listen to the spirit of who we are, right? To listen to that core being. Our authentic self is found in quieting ourselves, right? In quieting all of the chatter and all of the mind noise and all of the mind talk and this is that and the other. It's quieting ourselves and listening to our spirit. How would you respond if you had not been traumatized? How would you respond if you had not been abused? How would you respond if you had not been violated? How would you respond if breaches had not happened? See, now you're starting to get to the spirit of you. How would you respond if you weren't living your life trying to be a people pleaser? How would you respond if everything about your life wasn't just about how to appear good and how to appear successful and how to appear like you've made it, right? How would you respond to life, right? There's scripture that says that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. I can't even think of them all. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self-control, and all of those particular things. And they're fruit. They're natural fruit. You do not see apple trees trying to push out apples. You don't see orange trees trying to push out oranges. They just produce them because why? Because that's what they are. They are apple trees. That's who you'll know the fruit. You'll know the tree by its fruit. That's what it does. It's not struggling to get them out, so it just produces from its kind. But a lot of times we're not producing from our kind. We're just producing from societal norms or producing from everything that we were told we were supposed to produce. But when we stand and recognize that we are a fruit tree, right? Because you are a fruit tree, right? And the fruit that should be coming from us should be love, patience, kindness, joy, long-suffering, peace, gentleness, right? Self-control, right? So all of those things should be just natural products. You shouldn't have to try to be kind. You shouldn't have to try to be patient. We shouldn't have to try to be loving. Folks, this is at the very core of our being. This is what we are. This is who we are. This is authentically who we are. And if we would quiet ourselves enough, and when I'm saying quiet again, I'm saying removing the breaches, removing the areas where we've been pressured, removing the areas where we've been supposed to do this. We were raised to whatever. And I'm not saying throw all of the principles of the meat of those things away, but I'm saying to focus on what have you really been created as, right? And we've been created as emanations of God, right? Spirit beings that need to understand that authentic space, right? So when we get there, we're not this fruit tree trying to push out this particular fruit. It begins to be a natural thing that comes from our being. Notice this, the tree still produces fruit, right? So this is why I said that it's not that you're totally inactive, but instead of doing, you have moved now from just being in the state of mind of doing in order to be. You're being, and now what comes from that being is like inspired action. That's good. That's good. So move from being a doer, to one that operates in inspired action. The word inspired comes from the word in spirit, right? In spirit action, right? So now everything that I'm doing is coming from the authenticity of me being. So I am being something which causes me to have inspired action, right? Which produces whatever it may be that needs to be produced in the moment that it needs to be produced. We can be in spirit on our jobs. We can be in spirit, and we need to be in spirit in our relationships. And that's how you really truly honor the people in your life. It's not by going and doing a bunch of stuff for them. It's really by being who you really are for them. And from that being comes the authentic fruit. They're able to come to your table and have something to eat. Your fruit is not for you. Believe it or not, your patience is not for you. Your kindness is not necessarily for you. Love, joy, peace, all of these things, gentleness, even self-control to a certain degree is not for you. These are moments and areas that are relational things that can cause us to have deeper connections and deeper relationships. When the fruit of the Spirit is present in our life, when the fruit of the Spirit is present in our being, in who we are, and then we begin to respond in inspired activity or inspired action, right? Then now we are building ourselves up in love. We are building ourselves up in love. We're recognizing a sense of oneness that we share and a sense of oneness that we have, and we're bringing that to the table. So then now when you come to the table and somebody say, what do you got to bring to the table? All I got to say is love, joy, peace, kindness, gentleness, meekness. Listen, long-suffering and self-control. See, that's really all the Spirit really needs. And when we understand that, the actual inspired activity and inspired actions that come from that is not because I'm trying to be a people pleaser, or because I'm trying to not disappoint, or because I'm trying to measure up. It's now because I'm simply being who I was created to be. I'm simply being what I was designed to be. And so often when we think of that, we think of what we're supposed to do. What occupation are you supposed to do? And we lose sight of the fact that you are a spirit. You are a spirit being. You are a spirit soul. And when you operate from that space of authenticity, you produce inspired action that is I don't want to say that there won't still be issues that we have to face in society, but it's somewhat fail safe in building the world, the relationships, the life, the sense of fulfillment that we need in being who we are. Move from just doing move from doing to inspired action that comes from being. Set your practice and your focus on being today. Listen, I am love for you, and I hope that you are love for me. All right? Peace, folks. Peace. Be who you are.